Thank you, Emily. So yeah, we'll be recording this presentation. We'll upload it to the website. If you want to view it again afterwards. We'll take, if you could hold your questions till the end, we'll respond to any questions that people online have first, and then people here in person, we can open up the questions then. Again, my name is Nick Amtuccio, as Eric said, project manager with Bolton and Mink, and we'll just go through a quick presentation here on the kind of scope of improvements, assessment policy, project schedule, and kind of what to expect. All right. So project area, most of you already know this, but the portions that are getting full street utility reconstruction is 7th Avenue North, just north of Main Street where that old railroad right-of-way is, and up to Minnetonka Mills Road. And then from 2nd Street North to Minnetonka Mills Road on 8th Avenue North, and also 3rd Street North from 5th Avenue to 8th Avenue will be fully reconstructed with street and utilities. 1st Street North and 2nd Street North will both be resurfaced, milled, and overlaid, along with 6th Avenue North from Main Street to 1st Street North will be reclaimed and resurfaced. We'll be focusing mainly on those reconstructed streets, both 7th and 8th Avenue North and 3rd Street North for this presentation. You can see on the left side of the screen the existing pavement conditions in those pictures. There's a lot of cracking, patching, potholes that are going on, even some areas that don't even have curb and gutter. So on the bottom right side of the screen, you can see an example of a fully reconstructed street, what it will look like when it's done. This is actually 8th Avenue between 1st Street and 2nd Street. That was done in 2012 as part of that project. You can see the new pavement, curb and gutter, and new sidewalks. Existing and proposed street widths. We're generally narrowing the street widths throughout the reconstructed areas where feasible. This helps with pedestrian safety, plowing operations, and tree growth in the boulevards. So on 8th Avenue, we're going to propose to narrow that from 31 feet from face of curb to down to 28 feet wide. This is a pretty standard width for residential streets in the city of Hopkins. On 7th Avenue North, for that block just north of Main Street, we're going to keep that wider at 35 feet wide, just because it's so close to the Main Street businesses and there's additional traffic and parking. But 7th Avenue north of Main Street, will narrow that segment as well by about a few feet, from 35 to 36 feet down to 32 feet. And then 3rd Street North will be narrowed from 29.5 to 28 feet. As I mentioned, 6th Avenue North, 1st Street North, and 2nd Street North will just be a maintenance overlay. So the curb lines will stay in place. There might be some spot curb and gutter replacement as necessary, but otherwise the street widths will remain, and we'll just, on 6th Avenue North, the existing pavement will be reclaimed, which is grinding up the existing pavement and underlying aggregate base, using it as a new aggregate base to pave over. And then 1st and 2nd Street will just be milling off the top couple of inches and overlaying that. So those processes are much quicker than the full recon. Along with the street improvements, we'll also be making improvements to the drainage throughout the neighborhood where needed. You can see all the boxes and circles in red on the right side of the screen are areas where there are currently drainage issues, or proposing to make improvements, such as the 200 block of 8th Avenue North. It's currently very flat with not a lot of space for the water to go after rainfall. So we're proposing to extend the storm sewer to about mid-block, add a couple of catch basin inlets, and lower the road a bit, so there's somewhere for the water to go after a rain event. And then several of the intersections currently don't have enough storm sewer catch basins inlets to capture all the water fast enough during a larger storm event. So we'll be looking to add some there. On the reconstructed blocks, mainly at 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue North, we'll be also replacing the underground utilities, including the sanitary sewer. We'll be replacing the existing clay pipe with new plastic PVC pipe. And we'll also be replacing the existing 6-inch cast iron water main with new 8-inch ductile iron water main. This is a better material, the ductile iron, versus the brittle cast iron water main, and then also upsizing it from 6 inches to 8 inches in diameter will help with air flows. With the sewer and water main replacement, we'll also be replacing the sewer and water services to each individual house. So the property owner owns the full line from the main in the street to the house, but part of this project will just be replacing the portion within the city right away up to the property line from the main, which in that property line or right away line is just beyond the public sidewalk, as you can see in this figure, usually just a couple feet beyond that. So we'll be replacing that portion under the city sidewalk and city street. Homeowners can work with a private contractor or plumber to replace the rest of it from that property line to the house if they wish to do so, or if the plumbing, if the material is out of plumbing code, and the project team could work with you and your contractor on best timing to do that. We will have to remove some boulevard trees throughout the neighborhood for one of 4 reasons. First reason being it's an ash tree, which city public works staff will be, or maybe has already started, removing some of those ash trees in the neighborhood before the project even starts. A tree might be in poor condition or poor health, is either dead or dying. Those will be removed as part of the project. Conflict with utilities, mainly that sanitary sewer and water service lines that unfortunately go right under the trees sometimes. There's no way around replacing those lines without removing the tree. And then conflict with road construction or grading. This generally means that the tree is overgrown its space in the boulevard. It's either pushing up the street side or the sidewalk side or both. And it's just too big for the area. Any tree that is removed as part of the project will be replaced at the end of the project, and we'll coordinate with each property owner on the different tree species that are options to be planted. And usually homeowners get their first pick, if not their second or third for sure. So project costs, now that we put together the feasibility report, we have an estimated project costs. We're looking at about $7.8 million for the total project cost, which includes the construction for the street improvements, the sanitary sewer, the water main, and the storm sewer improvements. This also includes a 15% contingency for things that might come up in final design and items that might come up in construction that are unknown, and also 20% for engineering and administration costs. So these costs are paid through 5 different funding sources. The biggest one being the bonds and general taxes from the city, and then about half the project is covered by city utility funds, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and water funds. And then just under $1 million or 12% of the total project costs will be funded by special assessments from the individual property owners, which we'll get into a little more detail now. So special assessment policies for City of Hopkins, assessments are proposed for all reconstructed streets. So for this project is 7th Avenue North, 8th Avenue North, and 3rd Street North. There will be no assessments for pavement resurfacing or maintenance work per city policy. So that's 6th Avenue North, 1st Street North, and 2nd Street North on this project. So your assessment is compiled of 2 parts. First being the street assessment, which is calculated using 70% of the total street improvement cost, which this will vary for each property based on the front footage. However, this front foot rate is subject to a cap for all residential properties, which we'll get into on the next slide. So it won't be nearly as much as that 70% of the actual cost. Streets with no adjacent property addresses, so 3rd Street North for this project will be distributed to properties 1 block north and 1 block south, since there are really no actual properties right on 3rd Street North with 3rd Street North addresses. Utility mains, there will be no assessments for the water main, sanitary sewer main, or storm sewer, but there will be assessments for those utility services, the sanitary sewer and water services that I mentioned. That will be 50% of the as-built actual costs for residential properties and 100% of the actual cost for any commercial properties. So your total assessment is the utility assessment plus the street assessment. So the special assessment caps that I mentioned, the front foot rate cap for 2024 for single family residential properties is $106.14 front foot. This is a 3% increase from last year. Every year we increase it 3%, try to keep up with inflation, but this is also significantly less than if we were to apply the actual construction costs. It's a little less than half of what it would be. So basically, to calculate your street assessments, pretty simple. It's just the frontage of your lots. So let's say it's 50 feet multiplied by the $106.14 per foot. However, the front footage is also capped at 125 feet for anyone that might have frontage over 125 feet. Caps do not apply to any commercial properties, which we do have one on the project, and benefit appraisals are taken for these properties, and the lower amount is then used. We compare the appraisal amount to the policy amount, and it's lower. Preliminary assessment amounts were mailed to each property that is receiving assessment for the project a couple of weeks ago. Assessments for your typical 50-foot lots, which is the most common lot in the neighborhood on 7th or 8th Avenue, is just over $8,500. $5,300 is for the street assessment, and $3,200 is for the water and sewer service assessment. The 2012 project assessments were considered also when calculating these 2024 assessments, because in 2012 we reconstructed Minnetonka Mills Road and a block of 3rd Street North, which a lot of properties in this project area were affected by that and assessed for those amounts. So some of those properties are receiving a little lower assessment, possibly no assessment at all, because they were assessed a certain amount back in 2012. There's 4 different options for payment of assessments. First is a prepay in full or part with interest until roughly the end of July of next year. Second option would be to prepay with some interest until November of next year, starting at that July date. Then the third option, which is the most popular option, is to do nothing and let the assessment roll over on your county taxes after November of next year. This would be paid annually over a 15-year period with an interest rate of historically about 5 or 6%. We will confirm that amount along with these dates in spring 2024. This would obviously impact your escrow payments if you have a mortgage, or it would just be included in the county taxes if you pay it directly to the county. The fourth option is the least popular. It's to defer the assessments. It's the least popular because it doesn't get rid of the assessment. It just kind of pushes it off, pay it at a later date while interest continues to accrue. And you also have to qualify for it. You have to have a homestead property, income limit of approximately $40,000, and you have to be one of the following: either a 65 years or older, active military, or on full-time disability. For the upcoming project schedule leading up to construction, in a couple of weeks on November 14th, we'll be going to City Council to conduct a public improvement hearing and ask Council to order the final plans, production of final plans, I should say. And in January, we'll come back to City Council and ask them to approve final plans and authorize bidding. In February, we'll open bids from contractors and then share those results with Council and ask them to order the public hearing on assessments. In March, we'll have a third and final neighborhood meeting where we'll go over final assessments and plans and discuss the construction process and tentative schedule. On March 19th, we'll have our final council meeting where we'll conduct a public hearing on assessments, ask the council to adopt the assessment roll and award the contract to the low bidder. And then construction would start in late April or May, wrapping up in October or early November, with final punch lists and cleanup items likely going into the following spring. If you haven't been to it already, we do have a project website at hopkins-2024.com. We have a lot of project documents such as the feasibility reports, the assessment roll. This presentation will be on there. We also have a detailed FAQ page, and we'll be updating it throughout the construction process, sending out weekly updates, if not more, through text or email, and you can sign up for these updates right now. Your main project contacts for now will be myself, Nick Amatuccio, and also Eric Klingbeil, city engineer. Once we get into construction, we'll have additional field contacts for you as well. That's it for my presentation. Be glad to open up for questions. Emily, let me know if there's any questions online first.
We don't have any yet, but go ahead and type them in the chat if you guys want, and I can read them.
Sorry, what was that, Emily?
We don't have any yet.
Okay. Is there any questions for the group in the audience? Otherwise, yeah, like Eric said, if you have individual questions about your property. Yeah.
So how did you choose 7 to 8? You went from like 16 being done.
Sure.
11th, and now you're way over.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. So the question was for those online, how did you choose 7th and 8th Avenue to reconstruct? Right now we're on the west side, 16th, 15th. Why did we jump over here? So we kind of revisit that the CIP every year, every few years. The CIP is a capital improvement plan for the next 5 years of projects. And we rate those projects kind of dependent on what their needs are for pavement, how bad the pavement is, how bad the underlying utilities are. And we just felt like some of this pavement on 7th Avenue, 6th Avenue, 8th Avenue was in worse condition and needed to get done sooner than later.
Yeah, and the projects are all contiguous projects. Starting at 6, I'm working all the way to the field, and looking at that project area, too big for a 1-year project, so we decided to break it up into the street project. And looking at those, some of the street conditions we were in the commission on 6th, 7th, and also the utilities, just the elevation of the utilities. I think that led us to start on this side versus starting over on 12, 13, and working to.
Question.
Yes.
Working with the proposed possible sidewalk on 3rd, the proposed or not, if so, how is that going to affect? I'm on the corner, 2 cars on the corner of 7 and 8. Getting into my house from April, whatever, until November 1st could be problems and fun. Let's say we take the Metro Transit and we get off down on the short line, we call it, down towards 5th and walk up. How far is that construction going to take you down 3rd for that sidewalk? Are you going to be working on that all the way down to 5th or part way or?
So yeah, the question was what are we doing about the proposed 3rd Street sidewalk that we might add? We did reach out to the property owners living right on 3rd Street. Sounds like you one. Sure. Right now I haven't heard much in favor for that. I've only received 2 official responses and both were not in favor of adding a sidewalk on 3rd. So likely won't be adding sidewalk on 3rd Street North. It's still a possibility. I mean, we could add it in, but right now not looking like it. But if we did, it'd be relatively quick. The construction of a sidewalk doesn't take very long. We're talking a few days once they get going. And it would go from 5th Avenue to 8th Avenue North, just within our project. Yeah, it would be within our project limits. But honestly, we might only do 1 block if 1 block of residents wanted it and the others didn't, just to kind of do pieces and eventually hopefully connect the whole from.
It looks like we're at the end of the trail pretty much, so we pick up all that traffic on through.
Sure.
On bikes or what, they're there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're always open to hearing input on additional pedestrian facilities, but right now it's not looking like it. Yeah. I see we might have some questions in the chat.
Yes, we do. The first one is from Julie, and she's wondering, for those of us with garage access from the street, not the alley, will they still be able to access their garages and where will they be parking?
Yeah, good question. So if you guys can hear that, if you can access your garage, if you have it off the street and off the alley during construction, yes, you'll be able to a decent amount of time, but not all the time during construction. So the working hours are generally 7 to 7, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. Sometimes they work Saturdays, but not typically. And even if they're digging a giant 15-foot deep hole, they got to backfill that each night. So each evening you should have access to your driveway. But during the day, it's going to depend on where they're digging or where they're paving. you might not have access for a couple hours, and we'll door knock and let you know, and make sure you get your car out of your driveway if you need to. The biggest access restraint actually though is when we pour the concrete curb and concrete driveway aprons. We will notify everyone before we do this, but when we do that, everyone needs to be out of their driveway who's off the street for 7 days, because it takes 7 days to harden here. But again, we'll notify everyone, and then they can park on an adjacent street or even on the street after a couple of days if there's no other activity going on. Any other
Alrighty.
questions?
Yes, there was one other one from Dave. He's wondering if the estimated assessment that were received, if that will be finalized at a later date, and will it be itemized?
Yeah, great question. So will the estimated assessment be received, a final one at a later date, and will it be itemized? We will send out a final assessment in notice in March, just before that assessment hearing, maybe late April, or excuse me, late February, early March, before the assessment hearing in March. So you will get another notice about that. And that'll be the final amount. It likely won't be much different than the preliminary amount, because the street assessment is per a cap, so that one won't change. What might change is the sanitary sewer and water service assessment, since that's based off of actual bid costs, but it likely won't change more than a couple $100. Then if it's going to be itemized, no, the notice won't be itemized out or broken down, but you can always feel free to give me a call, and I can go through that with any property owner.
Awesome. There was one more that just came in. We're curious if the front yards will be impacted, and additionally, about retaining walls and gardens and things like that, if those will be impacted.
Yeah, so front yards and retaining walls and gardens will be impacted. If they're in the public right of way, so either in the boulevard between the curb and sidewalk, or just beyond the sidewalk, maybe within a few feet, they likely will be impacted. We'll also be reaching out to any property owners who have either a retaining wall or landscaping within the public right of way or within the construction limits that we think might be impacted during construction. We'll send out a letter in the winter, early spring, to let them know, and then they can reach out to our construction staff to either just give them a call to talk it through, or actually meet on site and go over what might be impacted. The city would either salvage and reinstall or replace retaining walls, depending on what the material is. We would not replace any landscaping features, so gardens, landscaping beds. That would be on the property owner to replace if they wanted to in the city right away. But we would let you know ahead of time in case you want to move some plants. Yeah, good question. So what about fences? That'd be similar to walls. We would typically salvage and reinstall walls. So we take it down if we needed to for construction, and then put it back up after the construction process is over.
But typically,
Yeah, we try to avoid landscaping and walls and fences where possible, but it's not always possible, especially some of those walls where they get taller and the excavation is deep. It's just more of a safety thing than anything. Any other questions?
No more online.
Okay, thanks. I think you can end the recording, but we'll stick around if anyone has individual questions. Yeah.
Houses like on 16th and we redid it on a typical block, like the 200 block or something,
Sure.
actually had to do their pipes all the way to their home. Like, how many roughly did you find?
How many pipes did we find that were out of plumbing code?
Yeah,
I think it was a handful, maybe 5 out of over 100. So it's a pretty small percentage. I imagine we'll run into a few, but it's not going to be
so
a
not
lot.
every home.
No. And some people choose to do it just because they know it's old and it might be in working condition, but not in the best condition. So they
Yeah.
choose to replace it.
yeah, it's something.
It's you might be able to save some costs on the restoration if you time it right. So
But I mean,
I don't know, but like the total, like that one slide you had there,
this,
that one.
Yep.
So like.
Yeah.
actual Homeowners. didn't know that.
directly with the special assessments are paying just under $1 million, which is about 12% of the total project cost.
So homeowners didn't know. So you can,
Yep,
see.
yep,
That's where our taxes are.
correct.
well, yeah, people are still paying strong food lots and that's your, they offer residents around. Yeah, I think the actual like general tax levy is 38%. That's the actual tax, like, city property.
Yep.
Of the fund.
Yes,
I'm just on this, so for all of the sidewalks, so I'm at 1347.
Mhm.
All of that sidewalk will be replaced,
yeah, good question.
or is it
No, all the sidewalk on 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue will be replaced. Yep, it'll all be replaced, removed and replaced with new sidewalks 6 feet wide, generally in the same location. So since we're narrowing the road, you'll have a wider boulevard. The sidewalk, it might be 5
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, so in addition to the items I said about kind of safer for pedestrians being farther off the road, more room for snow storage when they're plowing, more room for boulevard trees so they're not pushing up the sidewalk or curb like they are now. But then another big reason that I forgot to mention is traffic calming. A narrow road, you're going to see slower speeds in traffic. That was a big complaint on a lot of the questionnaires, speeding throughout the neighborhood. So this is probably the most effective way to fix that, is narrow roadways.
And it also is, it's a main reason why the is it does reduce the project cost as well, because there's not. It's much cheaper to put in sod and top.
And then it's also cheaper to maintain in the future. It's less pavement to mill and overlay.
Does that give you a little bit more place to put snow too?
Yes,
It does, yeah, it does make it a little easier for our plow drivers to, even drop them over, because I do not envy when they have to go plowing.
yep.
Say that the snow bank from the curb on into the road. Say that had to be close. Everything out there, probably close to 2 feet.
at least, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you got 2 feet on this side, 2 feet on that side, when you narrow the road.
But then you're gonna have,
But then you'll see it. Because as the plow driver, they could plow. But when that snow gets piled up, they push it all the way through, they push that whole pile. To the side. So the plow drivers have to be cognizant of not, putting a concrete snow on the side. So if there's more room for snow, they have more room to fit. Well, that's another thing. Well, of course, it's up here, probably agrees.
Well, I'm concerned that, I think, if you drive down 16th right now, towards Main Street is 1 block off, you cannot have 2 people coming in this car park right now in the cemetery.
Mhm.
There's only one person to get it through, you have to wait for another person to come through. Well, isn't that gonna be a little dangerous for like fire trucks and stuff like that, come the time when.
No,
Yeah.
we, all of our designs. They have input on all of this, and, you know, when Dale was one of your, Dale, fire.
Chances are instead of we won't be able to have two. Together there anymore. If you're taking it down 4 or 5 feet of road, our streets, when people are parked on each side, there's no way you can probably
What is the sound with that?
30.
32.
So, yeah, that means, yeah, I mean, big vehicles,
It's tight, but
But I mean, that's pretty standard on
Yeah.
all the recent recent memory. There really isn't much of an issue, and especially when you talk with a lot of the streets are, for the most part, we really haven't noticed an issue in it. Quite a few compliments of people, how they feel with the disease.
Emily, did we have one more question on the chat I saw, or?
Yes, we did. They're wondering if they can be informed about their plumbing lines being out of compliance ahead of time if they are out of compliance.
Yeah, we would inform residents if their plumbing line is out of compliance, so mainly in Orangeburg Sanitary Sewer Service, which is a tar paper like sewer service, or possibly a lead water service, although we haven't been seeing much of that. We would notify the property owner and let them know kind of what the process would be to go ahead and replace it. And we could give them some contacts for plumbers and contractors that have done that work in town before. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so the question was a rough estimate of how much it would cost to replace the line from where we're stopping with our product to the house. It's tough. It's really gonna vary on the property. It depends if you want, there are trenchless options where you can line it. I mean, depends if you got obstacles that you gotta cut down another tree. So it's really hard to say, or if you gotta go under a sidewalk or front stoop, which unfortunately happens a lot. So it's tough to say. I mean, on the lower end, for some of these, I would say another 5,000 maybe, if you don't have a lot of obstacles. But yeah, it's really could vary. And yeah, we would notify you though, after we replace our portion during construction. Once we have it opened up, we would look at the pipe material and then let you know kind of during the construction process. Any other questions? Yeah. Yep, you're mainly paying for the pavement, the underlying base material, the restoration, not the curb and gutter. That's part of the storm sewer improvements. Anything else?
Yeah, you guys,
Yeah. Emily, anything else online, or otherwise we can end this meeting?
Nope, that's all. I'll end it now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.